Yeah, it is.
Okay, so let's get started here. I don't want to be on Facebook Live or anything like that. Like, come on.
Can I ask a question?
I look up, I see like 3 people. I'm like,
You're famous.
not that cool. Plus, I might say something that'll get me fired.
I have a question already.
We can't go on YouTube.
Nuss. Can I take out my notebook? Can I take out my notebook?
Sure.
Yeah. Are those all your nicest hats? No. It looks like he put them on display.
This is no.
He's like, I like these
Alright,
hats.
so we'll get started. I'm going to skip the history.
Please.
Quick side point.
Don't skip the history.
Quick side point, Abe Lincoln, yes, the guy that we were just talking about, did establish this as a national holiday in 1863, in the middle of the Civil War, 2 years before he was murdered. Oh, what are you going to do? So, a couple things you'll hear me talk about. Mark, are you filming or just taking a picture?
Yes.
No. A couple things you'll hear me talk about. One of them is called RAD. R-A-D, Random Awesome Dish. And the RAD is an unexpected. Hey guys, we might be pushing into record territory. Unexpected, amazing dish that maybe you didn't plan for. 2 years ago, my sister-in-law won RAD of the Year. We give an award. It's like the Stanley Cup. You get to keep it for a year, travel around with it, whatever. My sister-in-law won RAD of the Year with it was a Brussels sprout dish, which sounds hideous, but it was like with cheese and bacon, and anything with cheese and bacon is amazing. Last year my sister won it, so she's got to come. So, another thing, it's tea. Alicia loves showing that is green tea.
That's terrible. Oh my god.
Anyway, another premise here is don't ruin it. Another premise that you got to remember: food equals love. And what I mean by that is all the time and effort that people go through to like prepare this meal. Someday, if you haven't already, you'll be in charge of like cooking, and it's a huge deal, and it takes a lot of work. But just remember that. We'll talk about that later. Another thing too, the HFB process, hedging your food bets. Now this is a system that I developed about 15 years ago, and it constitutes making small talk and schmoozing while identifying what the best looking food is, so that way you're prepared once the meal is served. We'll touch on that some more later. Another thing that I want to get at is I think you should suggest or invest in a good plate scale. This will help you to measure how much food you consume. I've got some data going back from like 87. You'll see a chart here later on how much.
Question.
The other thing, another thing too is a lot of people, I think you should get yourself a good gravy ladle. This is not one. Sometimes you show up and it's like, what is this? I suggest this is my gravy ladle that I find it's got good gravy. Anyway, the final thing is I've gone away from plates and more to a tray system. I find that you can definitely get more food. Yeah. So anyway, especially you guys now that you're getting in your prime food eating years, like good trade. Maybe invest in one now. You'll have it for the next 15 years or something. All right. So something that I think our country's never been more divided, yada yada, right? Like politics is a huge conversation killer these days. Everyone's offended, you can't say anything anymore. So I suggest meeting with your family pre-Thanksgiving to identify topics that you should or should not talk about. So here's our list the Nuss family came up with. So on the yes side, my parents relocated their primary residence to Florida to avoid having to pay Minnesota state income tax. That's a true thing. Mom's knee issues. My brother Jeff. I always call him Uncle because my kids call him Uncle Jeff. Shot a huge deer the other day, so we can talk about the hunt, the kids' sports. There's a lot of Packer fans in my family, my dad's side. So you can talk about the red hot Green Bay Packers. Wait a minute. We can talk about the red hot chili peppers, global warming, like that's on the no list. Like you can talk about the weather, yes, global warming, no. This one we came up with last year before the election. We had met Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump's presidency. Scratch that. Just no politics this year. We're permanently, until further notice, moving all politics to the no side of things. Okay? Also on the no side, Grandpa Pat's horrible golf game. He gets pretty sensitive about that. Uncle Jeff's BO. Aunt Emily's movement towards socialism. Socialized healthcare, pros and cons. Too political. Grandma's bowel issues. This brings up regular health problems fine, gross health problems not fine. So just be careful about that.
Are you letting me on broken collarbone?
Broken collarbones. Maybe that's why you probably don't want to. They get a little sensitive about that these days. Uncle Mark's new hairpiece. It's hideous. We're trampling of First Amendment rights on college campuses while rampant. Probably not good Thanksgiving discussion. So leave that on the no list. Got it, Leisha? All right. 3 to 4 days before. You guys have a lot of time in advance to plan. That's incredible. You guys are going to be able to really take advantage of this. You could, in fact, start even later today. But you start increasing the food intake. Some of you guys are like, you know, in your this is probably no problem for you. But I like to time it up. About the same time you're going to eat Thanksgiving is when you should have that big meal because your body gets conditioned to eating at that time. So in about a week, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's noon. Like, why am I surprisingly hungry all of a sudden? Because you've game planned for it. This is a picture of a sandwich I had the other day at 12. That's when we're eating. So nice little coleslaw on the side, but you get the point.
That's a sandwich?
Yeah. There's bread. So, through the course of my data collection, we've run into like off years called disastrous Thanksgivings. One of them was in 1994. I was a freshman in high school. Bloomington Jefferson Jaguars, the Baby Blues. Yeah. I tried starving myself for like 3 days. Not like literally, but eating like very little food. Thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna be so hungry by the time Thanksgiving rolls around. Well, diminish my consumption by 83%. Turns out it's like counterintuitive. You gotta eat more to eat more.
Whoa.
Clothing selection. I look around the room, I see some good, I see some bad. Thanksgiving. Identify your attire. Meaning, make sure that you've got clothing picked out that is, you know, classy but loose fitting. Now, one of the blunderous things that you could do is show up in pants that are too tight. Obviously, if you're eating a ton of food, it's going to get like really, really painful. Make sure it's washed and ready. Guys, you know, like this is what I'm talking about here. Girls, you're on your own, but you don't want to get too casual. You definitely don't want to be too tight. But this was my sister in '88. She went way too loose. And this is something, you know, it's like prime MC Hammer, too legit to quit with the big pants. Like, yeah, so too legit to quit. You don't want to be there. So we had to document that for future generations. But yeah, you know, something nice and classy, yet loose fitting.
Looks like you went to Macy's.
Disaster of 1999. I was a sophomore at the University of Minnesota. And I unfortunately forgot to plan ahead, and I was left with only like skinny jeans left, and it diminished my consumption by 30%. yeah, you don't want to go there. You would almost be better off just wearing sweatpants and taking the hit on not being classy. So don't go too tight with it there. So the day before, again, biologically speaking, when you work out, your metabolism increases. That will help. So start working out a couple days in advance, even would be better. Continue with your regimen of eating a large meal, roughly the same time. That way you can, your body will be kind of like conditioned into being prepared for Thanksgiving. Yeah, get a workout in about 5 hours before. We've done some studies over the years, and we figured that 5 hours is about the optimal time. You want to eat breakfast about 4 hours, so you work out, you eat breakfast about 4 hours, and then guys, make sure you shave to diminish wind drag while chewing. Although for some of you guys, you got your one time this year in, so you're good. Just a picture of my breakfast from last year that, again, big breakfast, that kind of thing. So make sure that you, it just helps to prepare yourself. 1996, talk about pop. The thing with pop is it tastes good. However, the sugar slows your metabolism, and the carbonation really kind of like will diminish your food intake. So my consumption fell by 27% after drinking a 2 liter, but that was cool.
You drank a whole 2 liter? It's probably what?
Yes, I did. Hey guys, come on in.
You guys have to squeeze in.
Goodness gracious.
You need some like stands.
This should literally happen in the auditorium. Choir room.
If your family is like
He would.
my family, instantly there's appetizers. We always say that if you're not full at a Nuss family get together 5 minutes in, it's your own fault because there's always going to be something out. Be careful, it's a trap. If you fill up too much in appetizers and the meal is served, you're not going to be able to come out swinging and you're going to be sidelined pretty quickly. Light juice or water. Excuse me. I like Gatorade. I feel it provides the necessary electrolytes to finish the meal. So just make sure that you're planning it out a little bit. The meat sweats are real. Okay? Food coma and meat sweats. So here's where, raise your hand if you're going to somebody's for Thanksgiving. Raise your hand if you're hosting people. Okay. So the HFB process is starting. If you're hosting, you can start that process pretty early. You can go in the kitchen, see what's being cooked, see what's being made, but you don't know for sure because people might be bringing stuff. So bottom line is, at some point, you got to get in the kitchen, make some small talk, schmooze a little. You can go back to the list that you've made previously, like talk about the weather, talk about grandma's like Wii bowling league. Still funny. Whatever it takes, get in the kitchen, start figuring out what food looks good, what food doesn't, what's going to be served. Excuse me. I told him, I'm like, by the end of this day, this is like the most I talk all year of Thanksgiving lecture.
Like combined. Every single day.
Economics teacher.
2004, I had a classic blunder. So my mom had an awesome like cheesy artichoke dip. Let's just say it was amazing. By the end, I was like the guy like taking the last piece of bread to like clean the bowl out. The problem was while I was cleaning the bowl out, everyone else was getting the place set up. And it was like 2 minutes after I got done finishing that cheesy artichoke dip that they were like, all right, dinner's ready. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was full and yet had to kind of like get in there, go small and try all, but diminished my consumption by 50%. This is an actual picture of our spread from 2014. You see like the bruschetta, whole host of cheeses.
Hello.
Deviled eggs, which is a classic. I think this is shrimp, which is like my favorite. I love shrimp. I don't know what it is, but. So now you show up. Notice here, this is called good plate management. Depending on how what's being served, Okay, good proportional. You can go gravy over the top wherever you want. But it's dinner time. I'm going to make you guys repeat this because this is perhaps one of the most important parts. Go small and try all. Everybody.
Go small and try all.
Nice. Now, you remember when I said, like, food is love? The problem is if there's a lot of dishes that have been made and they don't get eaten or tried, like, that hurts people's feelings. This goes back to, like, Thanksgiving '89. Grandma Lydia, rest her soul, she brought her infamous fruit jello. It's like jello with cut up fruit pieces. Yeah, exactly. It is as bad as it sounds. God bless her. We all turned our noses up at that dish. And I remember Thanksgiving is wrapping up. And the look on Grandma Lydia's face when she was like, no one tried the jello. The disappointment was palpable. Yes.
What was the word? I mean, what was the word? What was like, did anything float, or was it just like sitting lost there?
Oh, yeah. No, it was mixed in, but it was in like something like a cake pan. So, it's only like this thick. But it was bad. Pieces of like apple and like. But anyway, food is love. You do not want to disappoint grandma or aunt or uncle or mom, dad, whoever. So plate number 1 or tray number 1, make sure that you are trying all the things that are there. And this is a rule that I stand by. The positive side is twofold. Number 1, you might develop or you might discover a random awesome dish. And it might win Rad of the Year. Number 2 is you make people feel good about it. So, yeah, you just gotta try it. Sample all fair. Watch out for any rads. Go light on first plate to ensure strong plates 2 through 6. So, yeah. Well, you guys will try the system. You might hit 6 plates. Never know. Part of the thing, like at our family too. Like twice a year, we use like the good plates, and they're tiny. It's like, Mom, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, it's just for the appetizers? Like, no, that's the main course, and that's why I got my tray. It's okay to lie, people. Lie about how good it is, whatever, make them feel good. Be careful though, if you lie too much, you run the risk of all of a sudden getting a second helping and like being like, oh crap, so lie and move on. It's an art. Like, Grandma, this jello's really good. How about them Vikings? Like, you just got to transition into something else. Take her mind off of the fact that she wants to give you another scoop.
Classic blunder.
It is a classic blunder. And if your mom is like my mom, you have to tell her you don't want any more, like 2 scoops before you actually don't want any more. Because she'll keep going, like, no, that's good. It's like, what? And she tends not to hear you, so that she keeps giving you more and more. Disaster in 1988. This is a picture that's popping up here. I tried to take way too much. The problem was because I was eating off of it. It went to waste. So first, I went way too hard on plate number 1, and it ended up going to waste. So the good news was I was able to take that home for part of my leftovers. Mealtime, plates 2 through 6. I suggest identifying your holy trinity of amazing food. For me, it is green bean hot dish, mashed potatoes and gravy, and stuffing. Okay? Now, you could almost count this as 4 because gravy is dang near a category of its own. It is. So, I don't know what your 3 or 4 would be, but the good news is you've gone small and tried all, so you've got some background. And can we talk about something? Some of you have heard me say this before, but it is hot dish, not casserole. We are Minnesotans, okay? So Aunt Susie's like, oh, I made green bean casserole. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's hot dish or get out, okay? Take a stand, first of all. Take a stand. Hot done.
Dude, you got so many already.
Whoa! How do you like the green bean hot dish? Oh my gosh.
Bro, it's legendary.
It's legend. Wait for it. Dairy. Legendary.
Dessert. The number one thing you gotta remember about
Don't
dessert.
judge me. Got something to say, Fabio.
Bullet point number one. Precedence goes to homemade. So, if grandma makes a pie, and if aunt brings a pie, you have to bypass the brought from a store or bought from a store and try grandma's. And part of the reason is the food is love thing, but also like, do you know how hard it is to make pie? It is actually incredibly hard.
3.141512653589799.
The disrespect
3238.
that you would show, and in my Italian family, you do not want to show disrespect. Wake up with a pair of shoes. No disrespect. Okay, yeah. Right back in. Oh yeah. She was like, depending on how mad she was.
She had a holster.
Holster for a wooden spoon.
Leftovers, not too much, not too soon. You run the risk of being too full, upsetting your stomach, and hurling in front of everybody. And let me tell you, nothing is worse than Thanksgiving puke. There's a ton of it, and it's chunky.
Oh. And you can eat it again a second time.
Oh.
No. Then you can eat twice as much.
This is a phenomenon that has special meaning to me. A few years we would go to we would go to one at like 11, we eat at like noon, and then we leave at 2 and go and eat at like 4. And how many, does anyone else do like 2 in one day? Like, that is a commitment. That is hard. By the end of the day, you're just like, it's like painful eating. But you gotta push through. I suggest, this is where kind of like hedging your food bets comes in handy.
Money.
So what you have to do, like Luke, in your case, does one house have better food than the other? Like, yeah. So you gotta have to kind of figure that out. I know, like in my family, like I would want to make sure that I save room for this house over this one because they're gonna have better food. So just be careful of that. Hints for making Thanksgiving great. First of all, you can never have too much gravy. There is an unwritten rule that Thanksgiving ends when the gravy runs out. Now that can be 5 minutes into the meal, unfortunately, or it could be 5 days later. You can always freeze gravy too, so a little side note. But anyway, save it for later, like, I don't know. Gravy popsicles.
Oh yeah.
Just cause. It's like take out a spoon and like shaving. Alright, anyway. So there is a, like I said, an unofficial rule that when gravy runs out, which reminds me of a story. So it was 2002, and I was engaged to my now wife, and she invited me over, her family invited me over to Thanksgiving. And it was like, whoa, big time. And I was like, Kelly, does your family know about my Thanksgiving stuff? She's like, yes, I told my mom that you love gravy, she'll have plenty, don't worry. I was like, all right, then I guess I'll go. So, we show up, I'm doing the HFB process, I'm identifying any rads that could potentially be there, and I'm wheeling and dealing, I've got everything game planned. We sit down, tiny plates of course, because it's the good ones, and I'll never forget, like, my now mother-in-law, Jeannie, she comes over, she's got like the gravy boat. She's like, here you go, John. She kind of, place of honor, like gravy boat set in front of me first. I was like, I am touched, thank you. And I proceed to like just drown everything, you know, like crisscross, you know, everywhere. Like, and give it the old like, look away, like one more little, like, and so then I pass it to, you know, the person next to me. And by like the third person, the guy's like, clink, 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 you know, like trying to like get out all like the last little bits from the porcelain gravy bowl. And all of a sudden, like, her dad is, you know, hey, Jeannie, is there any more gravy over there? And she's like, no, but I put a whole bunch right in front of John. Where is that? And it was like, and I joke, like, in movies, you know, sometimes when people have, like, scary experiences and, like, the background goes, like, flying up. I had one of those. I looked around, like, my plate is swimming in gravy. Barely any, and you're out. And I was just like, oh no. And I'm like thinking my father-in-law's gonna like revoke his blessing. I'm like, so yeah, it was a scary experience, but it highlights the need for extra gravy. I've been known to keep an extra jar in my glove compartment. Tupperware. About 6-7 years ago, I invested in a good set of Tupperware and got my initials engraved so no one can take mine. That goes back to a time where my brother tried to take my Tupperware and I would go without leftovers, and we had this big fight over it. And I was like, that's my word, you know. But the last thing gets into something that has stemmed from years of experience. Talking about kids and Thanksgiving, and I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing? They're like, I just sit in my room. I don't even come out until the family's gone. Oh, kills me. Now, your family might be weird. You might find them annoying. You might think they make you pose for like really weird pictures.
Oh my God.
And like, sometimes those pictures might truly be weird.
Oh my God.
But someday you will look back on some of these pictures. I'd love to try that. Someday, and some of you guys will, holy cow. Some of you guys will, I've shown maybe some of my classes this, I don't know. Someday you'll look back at your family pictures and be like, oh, I remember those days. Oh, just like you. Okay, that's like circa 89. And then this is like, and then this is like circa, I don't know, 97-ish. No, this is probably actually like 2001 maybe. And then this one right here, this was like 97. Classic weird clothes.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Is that him?
I don't know why. This is my brother Jeff, Greg, Emily, and myself.
Straight face.
I was probably pissed at something. Thinking like, this is gonna look so stupid. Anyway. This is now my mother-in-law's pièce de résistance. The crock pot of gravy that now takes center stage. Like, you know how when you first, like, you set the table and you put all those stupid, like, center ornaments, like the candle with the leaves and stuff, and like the fake stuff. And, yeah. Who is it? What was an emergency?
Thanksgiving's canceled.
This is John? Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. Sounds good.
Are these actually kiwis?
Okay.
Is Nuss in trouble?
Tyson, where'd he go? You gotta go see your dean.
Ooh.
Shame.
I actually don't know.
Oh, you're not really
Sure. Yeah, leave your stuff. Yeah. I know.
Tyson.
Alright, anyway, so. Yeah. Huh? So anyway, getting back to gravy.
Gravy.
This goes right in the middle, and obviously this is used for. I think that's actually a joke.
Dude, it's still gorgeous. It's still going.
Other notable disasters. I told you about running out of gravy in 2002. That was hideous. 1995. That's where I get my expertise about Thanksgiving puke. And then finally, 1998. This is a unique one because we find ourselves as Vikings fans in this position this year. We play on Thanksgiving. So you have to kind of tread lightly. You can't just like sit, if your host family, like whatever it is, if they're in front of the TV, you're good to go. But if they shut it off, or if they're like all in a different room, you gotta be careful. So
It's all good.
in 1998, I was a sophomore in college, I think. And the Vikings had just drafted a wide receiver, straight out of Marshall, the super freak, aka straight catch homie, Randy Moss. Randy Moss in this game only had like 6 catches for like 220 yards and 3 touchdowns, and I kid you not. Maybe if we got time at the end, we'll show the highlights because they're epic. But the problem was I was so into it and I was just so jacked and everything like that. I was just like, oh my God, Randy! And I sat in front of the TV and like ate the whole time, and it made everyone mad. Learn from my mistake. Don't make your hosts mad, even if it is Randy Moss. Although I think it might have been worth it in the long run because that was
Definitely worth it.
one of the most epic games I've ever watched. This is a chart here of the data I've collected over the years. I'm like looking around like, what's what is that?
There. What happened in 1994?
Food consumption over the
Disappointed
years.
about 94. Oh yeah, well.
Disaster of 94, where I tried to starve myself. Food consumption down 83%. 96 was the pop disaster. 98 was the tight jeans. 99, sorry, tight jeans. And 2004 was the cheesy artichoke dip disaster. So, as you can see, the data doesn't lie. How have you been doing worse? You gotta complain.
What happened last year?
Guys,
Yeah, what about
it
2016?
is a sad note when I cannot eat as much as I used to. My prime eating years were in the 20s. You guys are just getting there. Well, not really. You will soon get there. Someday.
4 years.
So yeah, the data doesn't lie. Comfy. Okay, this is a letter. I'll probably have to read it because I don't know if any of you guys can read cursive.
Ooh.
He can read cursive. We learned cursive.
I just can't read in general.
My grandma forced me to learn.
So, this, in this upper right-hand corner, it says John Nuss, Language Arts, period 4, 9/22/90. I was 11. And I was writing about my favorite season, autumn. I'll read it to you. It says, many wonderful things happen in autumn. It's the best season for playing outdoors. This is true. This is a very busy time for playing sports. My favorite sport to play in autumn is racquetball. I remember beating my dad 21-17.
No one plays
Oh, what's some skill?
Other sports I play are football, hockey, and basketball.
That's more like it.
That's normal.
In autumn.
In
In
autumn.
autumn, my friends and I love to play games outdoors. Combination is my favorite game to play. In Capture the Flag, we hide a pile of leaves. This is my favorite, one of my favorites. I always kick the can in kick the can. There are many exciting holidays. Labor Day is my favorite because school is delayed one day. In Halloween, you get all of that luscious candy. And then the last sentence, last year on Thanksgiving, I gained 4 pounds. I was even recording data back then. John.
There's a few special words.
In this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. Special words.
Luscious. You must include luscious.
No! Go back! We're graduating, I need that.
Okay.
Just save this.
I got it all the
I
way.
actually thought something was seriously wrong. Congrats to my sister Emily. 2016 Rat of the Year. Here's glazed carrot and chickpeas. With a nice little kind of like yogurt sauce over the top. Sounds bad, but trust me, it was
Very old people-ish.
it was a consensus rad pick for 2016.
Does that reflect?
Yeah, some rats and
Turns out she stole this to give it up. So, one of the things I like to do is
He's back.
see if anyone else has any other weird Thanksgiving traditions. Daniel,
Roll me up in a carpet and throw me around.
they do?
What?
I like that idea.
Kinky.
That escalated in a hurry.
Oh, Dan, do we have to leave now?
Oh shit, I lost my backpack.
Matt, where are you going?
Makeup working.
Hi, Max.